Hey guys, I hope that you had an okay Thanksgiving. My Thanksgiving wasn't too bad, but whatever they didn't do on Thanksgiving, they made up for yesterday. Yesterday was really bad. They stung me with something. I was in the bathroom. I washed my hands, and I was drying my hands, and I felt what felt like a bee sting in my lower back. It really hurt. And then, I knew that it wasn't coming from anywhere around there. And then I kept having all these sound effects that were synchronized with, like, it sounded like my neighbor hit the wall with a ball at the exact moment I stepped into the kitchen. And then again, when I sat up in bed, something hit the wall. And then, I passed by the window and a siren. At that exact moment, there was a siren outside, exactly when I passed the window. And then I already told you guys about how my neighbor was running the water every time I go to the bathroom. But yesterday, they stepped that up even by synchronizing the sound of the water with my bodily functions, if you know what I mean. Those of you that are TIs know what I'm talking about. And I can remember, a couple years ago maybe, I was reading, a TI was talking about that. There was one of the TI websites, it might have been raven1.net, I'm not sure, but it was talking about that exact kind of thing that they do. And I was thinking, oh my God, I hope that doesn't happen to me. Well, it happened to me yesterday for the first time. It's never happened before. I want to tell you something. They were doing some type of work on the plumbing, it sounded like, this summer, right on the other side of my bathroom. It sounded like the neighbor had a plumber in there, was doing some work in there. And then my neighbor moved out about a month ago or so, and then somebody else moved in. And so, my thought is, well, it must be my neighbor. And then, of course, this satellite dish showed up in my backyard. Well, what I wanted to tell you is that if you're going through that, if you're going through something like that as well, consider the fact that it might not be your neighbor. I mean, I know in some cases it is, because I have 2 of my neighbors moved out recently. And the one guy that first moved in this summer, I mean, he would come outside every single time I stepped outside. He would follow and come out there and smoke, because I had told you guys how I hate smoke. And so he would come out and smoke in his backyard. It was always, it was more than coincidence. It was like, it was always after I went outside that he would come outside. You know what I mean? It was never that he was already outside when I went out. It was always that he came out after. So, I mean, there are some cases where it is when your neighbor is harassing you and persecuting you. Like, I don't even know that guy. I've never had any interaction with him or anybody that he knows. I don't know him. But, so in some cases it is, but just keep in mind that it's possible for them to make you think that it's more people than it actually is, because with the audio spotlight, and we all know that the audio spotlight exists, we've seen it in use. If you haven't, you don't know what I'm talking about. I have a video on my channel called Technology that they use to break up families and ruin lives. That will show you the audio spotlight in action. So what they can literally do is, it could just be one person or a couple of people. And so, for example, if it's just some old guy that you would never think, would do that, or maybe just some old Nazi dude, what he could do is he could, first of all, he would have to have that voice software that I told you guys about. I've seen it myself. I know it exists, and they've used it on me. They used the voice of my mother when I was really, really young, through the phone. They used the voice of my mother. I told you guys about that. And I knew it wasn't her, because she would never tell me to do what they were trying to tell me to do. And you can go watch it. I don't want to talk about that right now, but I know that they have this software. I've seen it myself, and they've used it on me, okay? And what it does is it can change a person's voice. So what they'll do is, like this old guy talks in the recording, he records his own voice saying something, whatever he wants to say to you or about you. He records it, and then he changes his voice. He can make his voice sound like a woman or a child or anybody, or even a person that you know. Believe it or not, they can actually somehow, and I don't know how the way that I saw it was when I worked in the entertainment business, and I knew this one audio engineer, and he was the one that showed me the software. And I'm glad he did, because that was the only reason I ever could understand what happened to me. But what he did was he already had a recording of a celebrity's voice. It plugged into the software. And so then he recorded his voice saying this, and then he changed it so that the celebrity said what he actually said. So what I think that they do, and I don't really know all about this, but from what I saw, they need to have a recording of the persons, and that's really easy for them to do. So for example, if let's say you're at work and you're sitting at your desk, and let's say there's somebody that sits next to you. Well, all they have to do is they have this, it's called it's a laser tapping type device, and it looks like a gun, but it has like a mini satellite dish on the front of it. And it's in that video that I uploaded. They point that at the person that sits next to you and record them talking, and then they have a recording of that person's voice. They can then take that person's voice, plug it into the voice software, and then they record what they want that person to say. So they'll record themselves saying whatever they want you to think that the person sitting next to you is saying to you, okay? Something creepy, something weird, whatever is going to freak you out and make your life miserable, okay? I look back now and I think, oh my God, that could have been happening to me in New York City at that job that I had. And I didn't know about this software back then. But it's just, I have to accept the fact that that's a possibility. That job was weird anyway. There was a lot of other weird stuff going on. But I have to accept the fact that that could have been part of what was happening. And so I'm just telling you that could be, if you're undergoing workplace mobbing or persecution at work, it might partially be that. So that then what they do is they use the audio spotlight after they plug in that person's voice, and then they record what they want them to say. Then they take their recording, make it that person's voice so that it sounds like it's the neighbor. Then they plug it into the audio spotlight and beam it to you. Remember, the audio spotlight can be changed. It can be made it's a spotlight. If you've ever seen a light spotlight, like at a concert or something, you know that they can make it a really small circle, or they can widen it out and make a very large circle of light. It's the same with sound now. They're able to do this now with sound. So they can make a very small circle of sound, or they can widen it out to cover an entire room, or they can make it very small to only cover one person's head. And this exists. This is in my other video that I uploaded. It's right there. You can see it for yourself. They beam this sound spotlight onto you and you alone. So it's really easy to do if you're sitting at a desk, or sitting on the toilet, or sitting on the couch, or anywhere that you normally sit, they can beam this audio spotlight on you to make you hear anything. It could be sirens, it could be helicopters, it could be your neighbors pounding on the wall, it could be people walking on your roof. Any sound that you hear can be beamed at you through this audio spotlight. Even the sound of somebody talking about you while you're at the grocery store, all they have to do is stand there. The audio spotlight could be the size of a cell phone. It could just look like a cell phone. And all that has to be is this one person. It just takes one person to be persecuting you. And then they just have to stand a distance away from you, beam this audio spotlight at you to make you think that the people around you are talking about you and your personal life at the grocery store. They can even make it sound like the news broadcaster on television is saying it. If you always sit in a certain chair while you're watching TV, or you always stand in a certain area, or whatever it is, they can beam this spotlight at you. All they have to do is have a recording of. All they have to do is the laser tapping gun that they have. All they have to do is record from your television. All they have to do is point it at your television, record the news broadcaster's voice, plug it into that software. They say what they want the news broadcaster to say, plug it into the software, and then they beam it back through the audio spotlight onto you while you're sitting in your chair watching the TV. And it sounds like the news broadcaster said something, but it's not the news broadcaster. It's this fucker with an audio spotlight and a laser tapping device, and that's all they have to have. So what I'm telling you is, I'm just trying to give you some encouragement and say, look, it might not be as many people as you think that it is, or you feel like it's all these different people, but it's really not. It might just be one person. The other thing I wanted to say, though, is that if this is happening to you and you haven't said anything, please say something. You can start a YouTube channel. You don't have to allow comments. You can block comments. You can block rating. You can even block anybody from even sending you messages. But please say something, because there are so many people suffering just like you. And I know for me, it's comforting to know when other TIs upload their own personal experiences. It's comforting to me, and so I know that obviously if I'm comforted by that, I know that other people are comforted when they hear me talk about my own experiences. And that's why I'm saying, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're going through this stuff, anything, even the smallest thing, please say something. Because the more people who speak out about it, the more it lends more credence to what's actually happening to all of us. And the more people that speak out, the more law enforcement's going to listen, the more psychologists are going to listen, the psychiatric community, the law enforcement community, your friends and your family. I mean, they can't shut up millions upon millions of people. So if you're going through this, please speak out. Please say something. And please hang in there, because amazingly, and I don't know why, but this stuff is written in the Bible. I mean, there were people like King David went through similar stuff that we're going through now. It was weird. I don't know why. I don't know what that's about, but there's more that's going on. There's more things happening out there than just in here in our world. In our world, there's a lot of crazy things happening, but there's even more going on even outside of our world. And it's not going to last forever. And if we all speak out, eventually this truth will come out. So just stay alive and be a witness.